joining us at ABPLIVE India Infrastructure Conclave, the third edition. The discussions today are going to be interesting, insightful, and I think we're starting the conclave with a very important discussion.
Absolutely.
Building India's industrial backbone.
Right.
So Cosmic CRF provides the high precision steel engineering that
Right.
holds our infrastructure together. So now, for everybody who's here, or people who think that this is just a steel company, let's inform everybody about how you're connecting different sectors and how you're contributing to India's infrastructure.
So good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. We are a very humble company, but thank you for giving us a stage to actually put our word across. So Cosmic CRF actually started in 2021. Many people don't know about it because Cosmic Birla Group has been there for almost 50 odd years. But this company is primitive, like it's primarily new, newer than the other companies that we have. This company basically changed our entire outlook towards industry at large. Initially, our entire family and our entire group was into metallurgical products and manufacturing of ferroalloy, sponge iron, and things like that. Eventually, we moved into, we still have that kind of businesses, but now we are completely focused towards precision items. We started with manufacturing precision items for railways primarily, but today we have taken over almost 3 companies from NCLT over the last 3.5 odd years, which is manufacturing precision items through engineering processes for defense, for infrastructure, and lately also for EVs.
Yes, I read that EVs have also started. Congratulations on that.
The bankers get scared, because I'm everywhere, and they say, how do you manage all this?
So now, if we need to understand what is a hidden cosmic part that we would probably not know is part of Indian Railways, what are those parts that you're working on?
So Cosmic CRF is into the manufacturing of components for the body making of not just wagons, locomotives, as well as coaches. Now we are primarily, we call ourselves as wagon players. You know why? Because 90% of my SKUs, out of 550 SKUs that I manufacture in my factories, 3 factories, together manufacture almost 89 or 90% of the entire wagons at large. Now when we talk about wagons, why CRF? So back in the day before 2011 or 12, we used to talk about manufacturing body parts of wagons and coaches through the process of brake press. Now brake press is a process which was utilized just to give a shape to a steel coil or a plate. But eventually, there was somebody from IIT Roorkee and with a couple of companies from the east as well as the west, they partnered up in 2012 and 13, and they bought this concept in the Indian Railways called cold rolled forming in sections. And this was primarily made to give a permanent set to a steel plate or coil, so that the Indian Railways, which goes into investing into refurbishments and rather than making new wagons, because if you see since 1979 to 2011 or 12, we had an average outlay of new wagon orders for the tune of 3,000 to 4,000 wagons a year. Cut to till 2019, we grew to 7,500 to 8,000 average out every year. Today we talk about 35 to 40,000 wagons being manufactured every year. So that's a massive jump. That jump can only be happening only because our depots, we have more than 130 odd depots in India, railway depots owned by the PSUs and owned by the government itself. And these guys do not have to make the capex investments to do the refurbishments. So one wagon that used to last you 3 or 4 years before it comes into the depot for refurbishment, now after CRF inclusion, takes almost 16 years. And we, by default, practically we don't sign a document on that, but we get really, I don't know, I mean, we get treated very badly at the railways and we probably lose our licenses if our products don't last for more than 16 to 18 years.
And that should be the plan. That should be the...
That's how you can actually get an economy like India to grow. So India is at the cusp of becoming a global powerhouse. And when I say that is only because they look at the kind of growth and the industrial, advantage that India has today. Like India at large at 30-40% is developed. The rest of it, people can talk about it in various seminars, but it's not developed. You go out of your city over 12 or 15 odd kilometers, and then you see a literal village out there. Now that's the real truth. So, but on the other end, rather than talking about it in a negative format, we can look at the opportunity of growth there. And we have a chance to build India the way we want to do it in the best way possible. What China did 25 years back, we probably can do it today.
So this is what I was reading. Your production capacity has scaled up immensely recently.
Yeah.
Now I want to understand, primarily earlier, all the major components were being imported.
Yeah.
But now it's become made in India, made in West Bengal.
Right.
Now I want to understand what are the challenges that you faced in doing this, and what are the government policies that you've seen changing or you'd want to see change?
So I think the government's been very, very encouraging about it. They've really supported the entire Make in India concept at large. not just in railways, in infrastructure or engineering per se, but most of the industries that we are participating in, and probably others will also be open to that discussion where government has been very pro Make in India. Now, there are policies that need to come in, like, there are states probably which has one window shop where you can get all your licenses and certifications in one go. There are states which does not. Let's not get into that debate of which state does not or which state does. But if all the states together, unanimously put, the MSME and the mid-cap, which is your 80% of your entire industry at large, and allows them to get the certifications at the right time, at the right spot, without much of a hassle, then this becomes much easier. So that's one policy there. Point two is, I often think that the mid-cap has to spend a lot of money on the R&D. Now, it's easier said than done. The mid-cap has to borrow at the highest price. India is an expensive capital and a financial market compared to all the developing, I'll say the developed nations at large. So when you're borrowing at, say, 6.5%, 7.5%, 8.5% for companies who are A+ rated. But when you're talking about BBB minus, BBB plus, those companies are borrowing at 9.5%, 10%. Post that, 11 to 12%. NBFCs are allowing funds out at 18 to 20%, 16 to 14%. So practically the fund is expensive. Now, when you have that money and you're doing an R&D and you're not getting the price that you need to get from the market and the encouragement. So first you break the heart of that promoter or the entrepreneur. Secondly, you break his pockets and you burn his palace down. And that's not how you can actually sustain this. So once we have that kind of policies in place, where you probably can amortize these, I'm just giving it from the top of my head. I mean, you can amortize the entire cost over the next 10 years, get tax rebates for MSMEs and the mid-caps, which is your backbone of the industry, then probably this will become better. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about Indian products, we only talk about, scale. Everybody, you look at any conglomerate, everybody's talking about scale. Nobody's really talking about quality. But there is quality. The quality can only precipitate only if the people who are dealing with it on the bottom line are accepting that quality and they know they're going to get paid for it.
But the cost of raw material has also gone up. And how are you managing everything? Now, you're telling me very confidently what needs to be done, what has done, but how are you managing this Make in West Bengal unit?
So first informal answer is that nobody manages anything. It's all in your destiny, honestly. I was told that I'm managing something back in the day. When I started this company, this entire production capacity in Cosmic CRF stood at 6,000 metric tons. Today, in 3 years' time, we have built 150,000 metric tons, over 4 capacities. Now, when you look at the CAGR of growth or top lines or revenue or market caps or valuations, we've grown at 173% per annum cumulatively. Now, that is an exponential growth rate. How many people are being able to grow at that rate? How am I being able to grow at that rate? That's a discussion that we can have over a long, long tenure. But the point is, I'm being able to contain my costs by scaling things up. Like I said, everything in India depends on scale. So I realized that scale is the only answer to my costing. Right? So my overheads needs to be handled because I cannot drive or derive the cost of the raw material because I am a small player compared to the entire Indian market. The Indian market decides the price. Steel markets are always fluctuating. Look at any of the steel players. I saw some names here, big names. Irrespective, all these steel players have been under the weapon of the global prices. Because you are literally 1.5% to 2% of the entire production of ferroalloys or sponge iron or any of this TMT. So you are not really driving the prices. So you are at the beck and call. Now, if you look at the policy making of that, once the anti-dumping happens, which obviously there is, I mean, MSP is there and things like that are there. But if actually there is no dumping here and Make in India happens to the best of its ability, then we will have people who will build better products, better quality, and they'll get the prices for it.
Now, when we're talking about building India's industrial backbone, of course, sustainability is key. Like you said, you started manufacturing products that last much longer than what they used to earlier. Now, what else is your vision for India when it comes to creating components or creating parts that last longer, contributing to the circular economy?
See, I personally feel the circular economy at large is bound to happen. It is not something that is going to happen or create feasibility. It's probably the imperative. It is going to happen by default. Why? Because today I'll give you a small example. Rather than talking in jargons, let's talk about an example. So in railways, we are using a product which is called IS 2062 E450 FEs 570 CUBR. Now there's a very technical term around it. I'll break this down for you. The technical term says that we have a mild steel, along with we have a carbon and a boron content of chemical composition involved in it. Along with that, we have the longevity and the elasticity of the product, which is as good as IRSM 44, which is a steel grade, stainless steel grade for railways and defense only. Now, practically, if you have a product like that, which is made by larger players like JSL, Jindal Stainless Limited, Tatas, and SAIL Salem, now you can imagine the kind of R&D they must have put into this. Now when you have that product that you're manufacturing, and you, after 16 years, it gets reutilized. It goes into scrap, and then again it is reutilized for refurbishments. Now when refurbishments happen, it is never that you kind of completely scrap the entire wagon or the entire thing out. You kind of break out parts which are not working, and then you reshape it. With that kind of a material, by default, the material that's coming out, that's basically going to be reutilized or recycled, are the materials that again has to be of that quality only. So that circular motion, it takes time in its own nature because it's organic in nature. But eventually, in the next 5 to 7 years, you'll see everybody using better specialized steel, better specialized inputs, because that is going to be an imperative. It's not going to be something that you can choose on. So that's the benefit of it.
So in practical terms, when do you think India will get to that point?
See, before I talk about India at large as an economy, I would just want to say that at our little shop, what we are trying to do is we have touched areas, because I personally believe that India stands on 4 pedestals. Like any kursi ki 4 पहिए होती है, there are 4 legs on it. India stands on agriculture, infrastructure, railways, and defense. Any one goes, and you have a doppling effect on the economy at large, on a longer tenure. Now, when you look at this, we have stepped into, like when you asked me that what are we doing around it and what India can do around it. So if you see if you see like 60 years of India, so you'll see we've had 10 years, 15 years of defense focus. Then we suddenly had agricultural focus. Then we had railway focus. Then railway focus was gone for 25 years. Today, you have a focus on all 4 to a certain extent. That
with a large focus on infrastructure, it's not being ignored anymore.
So infrastructure at large, I mean, Gadkari Saab is going to be here. The Honorable Minister is building almost 75 to 80 kilometers a day, maybe not 90. And then we are providing material to various EPC contractors. Recently, we bought this company out in 2024, which manufactures crash barriers, coffer dam manufacturing, poles, along with sheet piles. So we see the kind of demand that's there. I mean, it's crazy. And along with that, I'm just saying this part that India today is focusing on all 4. As a small shop that we run in a humble format, we realize that we also want to be a part of all 4. Because we don't know what's going to be cyclical tomorrow. But at the end of the day, if India has to grow and has to become a $10 trillion economy, maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, Viksit Bharat of 2047, we look at it in a position where we will also somehow call ourselves Viksit.
Aditya, I want to ask you, with your insights, your experience, so you've been working with materials that are built to last for decades. Now, if you had to build something...
I've been working for?
You've been working on something which is... you've been working for a while, and you've got the experience.
I'm shocked. I should tell you why. Because day before yesterday, my friend who's traveling with me, he said, how long are you working for? And I said, must be 15, 20 years. I realized I've been only working for 12 years. Oh. So it's not much.
With all the experience you've shared, I would say it would definitely be more than 12 years. So with all the experience that you have, you're working with materials that last decades.
Right.
Now, if you had to build something which had to last at least 100 years, what would that be? Beyond what your company is doing, what is your personal input on that?
That answer can be multifold, but let's just, for the time constraint and for the fact that we are on one discussion, let's just keep it to one point, that specialized, and I deal with steel most often than not. So specialized materials has to be utilized. India has to give the advantage in terms of pricing, in terms of cost, in terms of acceptance, in terms of purchase for various contracts on specialized steel. That is going to last you for a longer time. That is going to allow Indian government and the economy at large to brush shoulders with the big wigs of this economy. Along with that, the capex of Indian government is going to be much lesser for the refurbishment, which is absolutely wastage as per my understanding. Today, when we talk about wagons, when we talk about infrastructural products, there are new products that are being made. We used to have 5 wagons 10 years back, 5 or 6 wagons. Today we have 22 wagons. There are specific wagons which are helping products being transferred from one point to the other without pilferage. So keeping all that in mind, specialized products have to be focused on. And most importantly, we need to give the right price to the vendors. And for that, we need to have some policies in place. And along with that, I think we need to have no dumping from cross borders.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. Wishing you all the luck. And thank you for being a part of India.
Thank you. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.